Hi, this is Lisa, and you are listening to I Love That Movie. This podcast is for movie lovers. It's not an unbiased opinion, it's not a straightforward review, it's just a couple people talking about a movie that they love. The format is each week I have a guest, and that guest and I discuss a movie that they love, something they're obsessed with, something they connect with. We'll talk about the plot, the director, and the actors, but we'll also talk about the personal connection my guest has with that movie. So if that sounds like something you want to listen to, keep listening. Hello, thank you so much for listening. This is Lisa, and if you want to catch up with me on Twitter or X, you can find me at ILTM Podcast. I'm also on Instagram at I Love That Movie Podcast, and you can also find me on Blue Sky as well. This show is always free, but if you want to support it, you can at patreon.com/I Love That Movie. If you do pitch in as little as $1 a month, you get a weekly bonus episode of whatever I'm watching that week outside of what we cover on the show, and really appreciate y'all for donating. So I have a new guest with me here today. I have Dan. Say hello, Dan.
Hello.
Hello, Dan. Well, since you're new to the show, I haven't had you on before. Would you mind introducing yourself just a little bit?
Sure, yeah. My name's Dan Cheeseman. I live in Norwich in the UK. I'm a avid film fan and especially a Batman fan.
Excellent. Well, you've come to the right place because even though we talk about film specifically, I feel like Batman superheroes makes an often appearance on the show. So, and it's been a minute, so I'm kind of glad that you chose the movie that you chose to talk about today. I guess let the audience know what movie did you choose to talk about?
I've gone for Batman Forever, 1995.
Yes. 1995. Wow. So, this is definitely a movie I've seen before. I'll get that right out of the way. I probably saw this in theaters. I believe I did, if not definitely on DVD, or maybe even VHS at the time. I can't really recall. But anyway, I want to talk about you, not me. So, Dan, when did you first see this movie?
I saw this, I think it would have been on release, on VHS release, the first time it came out on VHS. I don't think my family wanted to go and see it, even though I was really excited for it. I'd seen the Burton films already, and we taped them off the telly, and I was already really sort of entrenched in Batman by this point because of the animated series, and they were re-showing all of the Batman 66 series on TV as well. And I had all the Kenner action figures. And then when the trailers started rolling for Batman Forever, I was so excited. And there was so much coverage for this one. This was not quite as big Batmania as Batman 89, maybe, but certainly it was a really big deal. It was all over the television, and you'd got the Seal song and the U2 song were both like big hits and were on top of the pops every Friday night. And every Friday we had a TV series every Friday night. I think it was certainly at the weekend, that did the rundown of the music charts, and I tuned in specifically so that I could see the little clips of the film in the music videos. And then I think it would have been the moment it came out on VHS. I think we got it then. And I sort of remember, I was 8 years old. And for me, all Batman was all the same person at the time.
Gotcha. Yeah. You
Yeah,
just didn't
like
have
I
that
didn't.
concept of like him being different, done
Yeah,
by
I
different
didn't
actors.
differentiate different canon or anything like that. To me, it was just 60s Batman is Batman, animated Batman is Batman, and comic Batman. And I'd only just started getting into some comics at that time. Quite hard to get hold of comics in the UK at that time, certainly where I was. And yeah, all of the movies for me, um, they to me it was all one person. I didn't, I wasn't even aware that we'd had a change of actor from Michael Keaton to Val Kilmer. But as I got older, I started to become more aware of things like that. And
Yeah.
there was a period in my teens where I sort of felt, oh, these are the sillier Batmans. Maybe this isn't the right Batman for me. And then very quickly in my 20s and 30s, I started to come back to the Joel Schumacher Batman, because they're just a lot of fun.
Yeah, and you grew up with them. Like that's
Oh, the
in a lot
nostalgia.
of ways
Yeah,
that's your Batman. I think for me, I think it was probably Michael Keaton, was like
yeah,
my first exposure. So for a long time I did have a little bit of trouble with the Joel Schumacher ones because, I was like, why I like Keaton. Right?
yeah,
But I think Batman, he's like James Bond, right? Like he can be
yeah.
played by many different people and they all have different interpretations. Well,
That's
thank you
what makes it
for
fun. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, thank you for taking me on that journey a little bit. Now, I've said before on this show that I don't really do like a spoiler filled and spoiler free.
oh
So
yeah,
if you've seen Batman Forever, great. If not, you might want to pause here. I actually watched it on Max, soon to be called HBO Max again.
oh yeah. It's
Um,
going back.
yeah, and just finished watching it this morning. So very excited to talk about it. I'll give a quick synopsis of the film, and then we'll talk a little bit about some quick facts. So
Okay.
Batman faces off against two foes, the horribly scarred former attorney Harvey Dent, aka Two-Face, and the Riddler, who's a disgruntled ex-Wayne Enterprises inventor seeking revenge against his former employer by unleashing a brain-sucking weapon on Gotham City residents. As the Cape Crusader also deals with tortured memories of his parents, he has a new romance with the psychologist Chase Meriden. So lots to unpack there, and excited to dive in. The first fact that I had was that Joel Schumacher originally wanted to make a darker and more serious film that would more
Mhm.
fully explore Bruce Wayne's growing fear that his crusade to be Batman had done more harm than good. Just side note, a subplot that I really love and that gets explored a lot in the comics and in different variations. So I like that. And that Bruce was beginning to suffer a little bit from burnout. I mean, we all get burnout
Yeah.
at some point in our careers, and why not explore that? But the executives at Warner Brothers insisted on a lighter tone.
Yeah, yeah. His very first proposal was an adaptation of Year One, Batman Year One,
Oh man,
which is
love that.
his favorite comic.
Interesting. That's
And
kind of surprising, honestly.
yeah,
From Joel
especially given what
Schumacher.
we eventually got, this couldn't be further
Yeah.
apart. He wanted to go right back to the beginning, like I'm going to go right back and get a brand new Batman, which is interesting because he did that. Obviously, he did get a younger Batman,
He did.
but
Yeah, so he kind of got his way in, I guess, in that way.
yeah, but it couldn't be further from Batman Year One.
No, I sense that Val Kilmer's performance, he's trying to be
Mm,
more rigid, but it's not the seriousness like you said.
yeah,
Also, this film marks the first appearance of Arkham Asylum
yeah,
and Wayne Enterprises in a live action Batman film, which shocked me. I hadn't thought about it that way.
yeah. It's crazy, isn't it, that we didn't get
Yeah,
those before then? Yeah,
until 1995. Um,
he
also,
actually left someone alive to put in Arkham Asylum this time.
well, that's a good point. Batman co-creator Bob Kane said in a Cinescape interview that Val Kilmer had given the best interpretation among all the actors to play Batman up until that time. What are your thoughts on that, Dan?
Oh, I mean, he's marvelous. I think it's quite a different approach
Very much
When
so,
you're
yeah.
sort of comparing Michael Keaton with Val Kilmer,
Hmm.
Michael Keaton is a very wild Batman, and
Yeah, he's like
quite
unstable a little bit.
yeah, he's
Yeah.
unhinged, isn't he? And I love that for him.
Me too. It's kind of what I
Um,
liked about his performance. I was like, I like that
yeah,
he's on edge and that you feel like he's somebody that could potentially have anger issues or other issues.
yeah,
You know what I mean? But
yeah,
Val, yeah, he's playing it like very in control. Very, very,
yeah.
yeah,
It feels
different.
like Michael Keaton identifies with the weirdos in Gotham,
Yes,
like Catwoman, Penguin, especially. He's going through that all that. There's a big struggle with duality in Batman Returns, and it's funny.
agreed.
That's still kind of the theme. That's kind of the theme for the first three films in that sort of Burton Schumacher era. It's only once we get to George Clooney that all of that is behind him, and he's well
Yeah.
adjusted.
George
Um,
Clooney, in my opinion, out of the two actors, definitely fits like the wackier vibe for sure.
yeah,
Like,
he's
he's
knowing,
handsome,
isn't
he
he?
can be funny, like, but Val is a very different,
Yeah,
more understated
it's
performance. Yeah.
tonally we're halfway in between the Tim Burton and the full crazy of Batman and Robin.
And let's
In that
get
we've
nuts,
got
yeah.
yeah, we've got a a very serious Batman. I mean, Batman's always he's kind of the straight man to the crazy villains to an extent. I think
True.
the writer or the one of the writers was Akiva Goldsman, and he said Batman is the steady life partner, and the villains are the unpredictable hot date.
Agreed. I mean, because if he was matching their energy, I think it would be exhausting.
Oh, it would be
But
horrible. Yeah, that was Tommy Lee Jones's mistake in this film.
right, and I think that's why, for a long time, and I think they're kind of past that now, but Marvel had this stigma, right, of the villains were weak and the heroes are the interesting part. And
Yeah,
Batman is almost just the opposite. Like in some ways he can in certain iterations come across as like a blank canvas for
yeah.
and but that's what I like about him. That's fun. Like,
Yeah, he's quiet where the Rogues Gallery are loud. He doesn't give speeches.
yeah,
Uh,
it just gives him more power. It gives him sort of this like Clint Eastwood kind of cool edge to
yeah,
him.
I
Yeah.
think Keaton on Batman Returns actually asked for a whole load of lines to be cut to make him more
Oh.
mysterious. Um,
He's called the Dark Knight. I mean, he should
yeah,
be
it makes
mysterious.
sense.
Yeah.
I think of Val Kilmer as he's either kind of square in
Hmm.
that he's kind of moved away from identifying with his villains,
Yeah.
or that he's matured and that because they're meant to be one sort of continuity. They've gone backwards and forwards on whether that's the case, and now we have comics and books that sort of split the Tim Burton films off into their own thing a little bit. But
Hmm.
when they made these films, this was definitely meant to be Batman 3.
Gotcha.
Um, and to me, I sort of see him maturing from his wild days as Michael Keaton into the calmness that Val Kilmer exudes. And then I like to think in my own head canon that Chase Meridian gives him therapy, so he then matures into the well-adjusted George Clooney.
Yeah, by then he's like, let's just have fun with my life. Like, I'm
Yeah,
Batman. It's fun. I get to beat up criminals and save the day. Like, there's some fun to that.
yeah, you can tell he's enjoying himself. George
Yeah.
Clooney is having a whale of a time. He seems to have regretted it later, which is a shame because I think that's a really fun film as well. But I feel like
Yeah.
you can't keep him crazy and tortured forever.
Because,
He,
yeah, it becomes, I think, exhausting for the audience.
yeah, how many times can
Yeah.
we see the Waynes getting gunned down?
Right. You're like, at the end of the day, want to enjoy this. Well, if we go with this metaphor that, maybe this is about his maturity, then maybe that's why Robin is such an opposite to him in this film. Like,
Yeah, he's the wild one in this one. Yeah,
yeah, he's the one that he has to be like, "Hey, I've been where you're at and
yeah,
like
he sees
grow up."
himself in him
you
instantly.
know.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Well, that was I enjoyed talking about that. That's a great observation. Um, I also had well, actually, that was the end of my little my little facts there. But why don't we talk? I mean, I don't know that we've covered another Joel Schumacher film. I don't think we have on the show. Did you want to
Well, he's
talk a little bit about him, like as a director?
I mean, he initially they were looking at John McTiernan from Die Hard
Oh, interesting.
and Sam Raimi, which is kind of considering they wanted to go in a more child friendly direction, quite odd because
Mm.
he was at that not at that time surely known as a horror director.
Right, he wasn't making Spider-Man films.
No, not yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. um, I love that he said Joel Schumacher of this film. He said, "I wanted to make a living comic book."
Yeah.
And I really feel, to an extent, I mean, I can totally see where he's doing that as well. Like, I love the way he said he didn't want to put white borders around the edge of the screen, but in every other aspect, he wanted this to be like you're looking at a comic.
Yeah.
And I think there are bits where I'm like, wow, that's so, you couldn't get away with that in another genre. So, like, when Two-Face flicks his coin and we get this huge close-up of the coin, or when you've got the aerial shot of the Waynes in a spotlight laying on the ground, or he knew from the outset, once he decided, oh, I'm not going to make this quite serious film, which, you know, he's done a lot of serious films, you know.
Yeah, The
Did
Client.
Flatliners,
Yeah.
Lost Boys, Falling Down, Phone Booth. He did 2 Grisham adaptations.
We have talked about The Last Boys on here. So
I
I have to
was
take
going to
back what
say,
I
I bet
said
you have
earlier. I'm
Lost
like,
Boys,
we
yeah.
definitely have talked about that.
And you can see it in this as well, can't you? There's
absolutely.
everything's at night time and everything is lit by these inexplicable spotlights. It is a little bit of a, I mean, it looks, I don't think I would recommend it to someone who's epileptic. It's very, especially towards the
That's a
end of the
good
film.
point, honestly. That I
Once you
don't
get
think
to the
back then they
Riddler's
really did a lot of
Floor Island, yeah.
yeah, they didn't do a lot of like warnings back then either. So good
No, they
point.
really didn't.
Yeah, I think interesting choice, right? I mean, I feel like at this point in his career, he's done some big movies, also music videos for like In Excess, and you know, he did the music video that is associated with this film, which
Yeah,
I
for
forgot to
seeing,
say
yeah.
this earlier. Fun fact for me, I didn't identify. I think, you know, now we get all of our media like in one place, like with the internet, but back then I hadn't seen that music video.
Oh,
So,
really?
yeah, so I did not even realize it was associated with that film. And I loved that song. I got so
Oh,
excited.
yeah.
These were back in the day for if you were in Dallas, you were on 106.1 Kiss FM. And I would record that song, you know, and that's how I never had the album on cassette, but I would record it on cassette so I could listen to it. And I remember like being a kid and like dancing around to that song and thinking it was so epic.
It's such a lovely song, and it's what
Yeah.
and he didn't write it for the film. It was one that he had sort of laying around on the cutting room floor, and just repurposed for the film. But it really fits, doesn't it?
It really does. And it just like, it's very, you know, 1995 as well,
Yeah.
which makes it really fun. Like, you know, didn't know that at the time, but in sort of a time capsule way. But yeah, okay. So we've talked a little bit about Joel Schumacher. We've talked a little bit about Val. Maybe we should explore some of the other casts of this movie because this is a big cast.
Oh, sorry. One of the other things I was going to
Oh,
say
go for it. Go for it.
Joel, about making the sort of living comic book. I always think Batman is always given to a director with a very unique vision and style. We very rarely get a pure translation of the comics. So in some ways, the 66 show is one of the most pure translations because it's a Silver Age comic,
Sure.
you know, directly put into live action. But it feels like even now we've never really got anything that's an absolute like for like, because unlike something like the MCU where they want them to all feel like one big whole, Batman films are almost the opposite in that they're given to auteurs and they're given to you know, they're given to people like, you know, we've got Christopher Nolan and Zack Snyder and, you know, Tim Burton here. What's more distinctive than Tim Burton's?
Right. That's a
Yeah,
very good observation. It's like
yeah,
Batman gets told in their voice, not the other way around. Yeah.
yeah. And that's still the case. I think. I mean, I love Matt Reeves as the Batman.
I do too. I feel
Um,
like that doesn't get enough love. Almost like people forget about it. And I'm like,
yeah,
I really enjoyed it.
yeah. It's almost like I feel like people just sort of clump it under the Christopher Nolan
I
ones when it's actually doing
agree.
something really different to
It's
the Christopher
very
Nolan
unique if you give it
ones.
like that
Yeah,
chance. Yeah.
in the Nolan ones, you've got a man who is um, made into a Superman, into a they're like, how can we tell a story where a normal man reaches this aspirational level of magnificence
Hmm.
and can be this huge symbol for a whole city. Whereas
Right.
with Matt Reeves, you're looking at what would it be like if a normal man tried this in real life? Uh, what would happen if he tried it and he didn't have the sort of uh, it's less a case of explaining all of the magnificent things that we associate with Batman and more going back to basics and saying, okay, if a man had this idea in his head and this is what he wanted to do, how would he try to get there?
Hmm.
As they to me they take opposite ends of the
Yeah.
they look at the situation from opposite ends.
Agreed.
I think with those films as well, there's a lot of especially with the Christopher Nolan ones, there's a lot of people who are hugely fans of those because they legitimize adults being into a Batman movie or into a
I
superhero movie.
completely agree. I
Yeah,
mean, if you hire Christopher Nolan, it's like you're hiring somebody that makes good. It's almost like asking Martin Scorsese to make a
it is.
Batman
Yeah,
film,
yeah.
right?
Who
Yeah.
better in this? What he's? I mean, he may be our best living director.
Hmm. Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and he it's funny because I don't see that. That's one of the reasons I love Batman Forever is because um, uh, it's not a bad thing to make a film that's kind of campy. That's
Agreed.
I think in the 90s
Yeah.
maybe people felt that way.
I
They were
think they
like,
did, but I remember distinctly like when this came out, I honestly, I mean, I was a teenager, so or young. Might have been, well, yeah, I guess I would have been, yeah, maybe 13, 12, 13, something like that when this came out.
yeah,
But I remember kind of having a knee-jerk reaction to it because I liked the other ones, the
yeah,
89, the Tim Burton ones. And I remember my uncle saying, but I like all these colors. Like he's like, it reminds me of the 66 Batman. And like,
yeah.
I mean, he's a comic book hero. Like, why can't it be more colorful? And I remember us
Yeah,
like
it's meant to
discussing
be
that.
fun. It's an escapist fantasy where billionaires are actually benign. You know,
Yeah. And in a lot of ways, I think, I mentioned Marvel earlier, but Marvel really did a lot for that genre, right? Around going,
yeah,
hey, let's just go ahead and have these colors, and these people are doing amazing things. Like, yes, they started more grounded with Iron Man, but as we went on, like, they got the audience to accept wacky and to accept fun.
yeah,
But in 1995, I mean, this was a kind of a divisive film, as
yeah.
Batman tends to be
It's
for
it's not
whatever
the film
reason.
fans wanted. It was
It's
the
not,
comics
yeah.
couldn't have been grittier in the 90s.
Exactly, exactly.
They
Well,
wanted super serious.
hmm, did you have anything else you wanted to talk about specifically around Joel, or did you want to
Oh,
talk?
sorry, yeah. The other thing I was thinking about with specifically with um, oh, that's it. When you were talking about Clooney, the difference when you then get to Clooney,
Hmm.
he, I feel like he winks to the audience,
Hmm.
where Val Kilmer does not. Val Kilmer, like you say, is playing it very straight, and that is carried over to an extent, I think, in the MCU films, and I like it more. I love the quips in the MCU films, but I like
Hmm.
it more when they don't undercut themselves.
Agreed. Like,
Sometimes there'll be
and
an
that's become
emotional
a
moment.
trope.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it has. There'll be an emotional moment, and then they'll quip as if to say, "We're embarrassed to take ourselves seriously." And I
Yeah.
don't want them to do that because why? You're sitting in the cinema. you can get lost in a story. It doesn't matter if it's not a real story, a story that could ever happen. Not everything is kitchen sink drama, right? You can get. I mean, that's the whole point of science fiction. You're getting lost in something that is never, ever, ever going to happen, but you can be emotionally attached to it as much as you want.
Sure. No, that's a very good thing to point out, for sure. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, you wanted to talk about the rest of the cast?
Oh, yeah, sure. Let's talk about the rest of the cast. So we talked about Val Kilmer, who's made an appearance.
I've got a fun fact about Val Kilmer.
Oh, go for it. Go for it. No, absolutely.
He visited the set of the 60s TV show when he was 8 years old.
Whoa.
And Chris O'Donnell was also a big fan of the TV series.
Interesting.
And when he got the call to be Batman, he was researching another role in a bat-filled cave in South Africa.
Interesting.
Like it was fated.
Wow. Like it was fated. I love that. Yeah, we've talked about Val Kilmer on the show because we talked about Tombstone.
That was what convinced Schumacher to cast him, was Tombstone.
Really? Wow,
he's the best part of the film.
He truly is. I mean, he steals the show. Yeah, 100%.
They were looking at the Baldwins. They were looking at Dean Cain, Daniel Day-Lewis, Johnny Depp, Ralph Fiennes, Tom Hanks. But I mean, out of all of them,
Tom
Val
Hanks
Kilmer
is ludicrous. I'm sorry. I cannot.
None of those are Batman, are they?
Yeah, I just don't see that. Val Kilmer more than Tom Hanks for sure. What about Tommy Lee Jones? Like, how do you feel about his take on Two-Face?
I feel like it's. I mean, there are bits that I love, and there are bits where I'm like, why would you do that? When he's whispering, when we very first meet him in the film, he's whispering to the security guard, and I'm like, oh, this is good. This is, I feel like he could be a scary presence in this film.
Mm-hmm.
And I love it when he does that. And the other thing that I love him doing in it is when he is himself, which he usually leaks through at some point in a Tommy Lee Jones film.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, for example, the bit where he's saying to the Riddler, how to punch a guy. And he's saying, just lean back and assert yourself. And, he's just, it feels like, and he calls him, he's like, oh, you're my boy. He feels like he's leaned back into just being Tommy Lee Jones for a second. And I think that really works as well. What doesn't work is every time he tries to really outdo everyone, especially Jim Carrey, with whom he didn't get on.
Yeah, I would say that my problem with his Two-Face is that it is so clearly influenced by Jack Nicholson.
Yeah, he's trying to do that, isn't he?
And it's like, he's not Jack Nicholson.
No.
So he's just not. But one could make an argument that both he and the Riddler are doing Joker-esque things in this movie, right? Like, the Joker's not here, but man, I feel his presence. Again, maybe under the shadow of Jack Nicholson, they're just both trying to, and that may have been what led to the conflict too. Like you said, it feels like they're both trying to outdo each other. Yeah.
Yes. You're absolutely right about the Joker. He, especially Tommy Lee Jones, he feels like he's saying, right, well, Jack Nicholson, he spoke in a serious, deep register here, and then he'd be up here, and then he'd be down here, and then and he was all over the place, but it was really scary
because when Jack Nicholson is scary. Like
he's terrifying,
terrifying. Yeah. And Tommy Lee Jones, I think, just exactly what you said, perfect Harvey Dent.
Yeah.
But not necessarily a perfect Two-Faced.
No,
but I still enjoy it. I love the costume.
It's beautiful. Yeah. I was thinking the other day how it would look if it was a bit like drained of color, because the scarring is really gross. But then because they go for that sort of nuclear pink, it becomes you don't really look at it. But when you look at the details, if this film was in like grayscale, He would look horrifying. You know,
That's a really good point. I hadn't thought of that. That's
those
true.
prosthetics took 4 hours at the start, which is probably why
Oh
he's so
my
grumpy.
gosh. Yeah, I mean,
um,
that would make anybody angry.
and then they got it down to 2 over time. Um, he, yeah, he didn't like Jim Carrey right from the off. They famously, I mean, allegedly said to Carrey, "I hate you. I really don't like you. I cannot sanction your buffoonery."
Honestly, though, I think Jim Carrey has had run-ins with people in the past. I mean,
Yeah, and he was so he was this, yeah, he was so like ascendant at this particular point in his career.
yeah, and like I'm thinking of even I feel like he rubbed people the wrong way in Andy Kaufman and
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he did. Didn't he stay in
yeah.
character the whole time he was in Man on the Moon? Yeah,
Yeah, and
which
like
must have been just so exhausting.
I know, and I know he's going through like I read a divorce during this time
Yeah,
and
I think just before Batman Forever, he lost his father as well, which
oh
really doesn't come across because he's exuberant. He's really peeling off the screen. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, but I
Um,
mean that's especially if Tommy Lee Jones is trying to do a bigger performance. I mean, you couldn't be paired with a worse person if you're feeling nervous about that because Jim Carrey every performance is so over the
no
top.
one should try and go bigger. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the thing. I feel like it would have been really cool if, like Val Kilmer, he'd cut against the grain and he'd said, "No, I'm going to be the serious part of this film.
Yeah,
I'm gonna,
even with all the
especially because
makeup and
Two Face is
stuff.
quite tragic. He's not as funny as even just in the comics. He's not really
No,
he's
you're
not a funny
meant
character.
yeah, you're meant to feel sorry for him and for there to be a kinship, but I don't really get that in this movie.
No,
So yeah, but I think that they've kind of struggled with Two-Face on screen. I mean, I would venture to
yeah,
say even the Aaron Eckhart version is nowhere near as like emotionally impactful as say in the Batman animated series. I mean, in that
oh
show,
yeah,
you
oh
really
god,
feel for
yeah,
Harvey Dent. It's deep and nuanced, even though it's a cartoon. We just don't get that in this one. But respect, to Tommy Lee Jones and what he did with it. He did what was asked, and
yeah, yeah.
it
I
was
mean,
good.
he's being directed by Joel Schumacher, and if Joel Schumacher says, "I'm making a cartoon, I'm making a comic book," then you don't just, you're not likely to just go, "No, no, I don't really, I don't really want it." That's not true to this character that I've only just heard about.
Yeah,
um,
exactly.
they had to buy out Billy D. Williams' contract because they
Mm.
initially wanted him for he was Tim Burton's Harvey Dent, wasn't he?
That's right. That's right.
Um,
Completely forgot about that. You're absolutely right. So
but
they had
but
to.
as soon as Schumacher came on, he was like, "No, I want Tommy Lee Jones." Who I think he worked with him before on one of his Grisham films.
Yeah, maybe with a client or
Yeah.
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 What do you think of Nicole Kidman as Chase Meridian? Is that even a character in the Batman lore? Chase
No,
Meridian?
no, she's never
Okay.
been in it, and I kind of feel like that's a missed opportunity because
Agreed.
we've got psychotherapists. We've got the Scarecrow and we've got Harley Quinn,
Right, right.
but both of them go nuts, and so they can no longer fulfill that function. And it would be nice if there was someone who was in there in the comics saying, "Whoa, hold on, Batman, you need therapy."
Maybe it's just 90s, but I could not. Well, that's one observation I'll make about this film. I won't make a huge deal out of it, but I noticed that women are just beside themselves over these men and I'm like I don't
I
know
know, yeah.
if that's accurate but it's
Especially
definitely
her.
like a
She's the most.
fantasy for the guy for sure. Yeah.
She's the most excited, isn't she? In it.
Yeah, and I kept waiting. I was like maybe it's because this ends up being too aimed at kids, but I feel like a more adult version of it she would just come out and say like I have a sexual addiction or something. I mean
Yeah,
she
I,
is like
I have
really
a very
really interested
specific
in
Batman
Batman.
fetish. Yeah.
Yeah, she even says that. She's like, I love motorcycles and leather,
Oh,
and
she
now I'm
does
into
say that. Yeah,
rubber. And I'm like, whoa, lady, this is revealing a lot about you that you're telling to a
yeah.
man dressed like a bat. Like, I don't know if you should be doing that. But also missed opportunity simply because we have Nicole Kidman. Like,
Mhm.
and I had read that Joel Schumacher actually wanted her to be Poison Ivy, which,
Oh,
not gonna
really?
lie, like, I'm just gonna say it. She would have been a better Poison Ivy. I know,
Oh,
shots
she would have been
fired.
really good. I mean, I
because
love
she would
Uma
have.
Thurman as Poison Ivy, but
Yeah, it's super fun, even campier than this film, of course, but I feel like she could have done a good job with that character because at least my earliest exposure to that character was definitely the animated series, but I felt like she was so like powerful and I
mm,
don't know, and I loved the activism and I think that Nicole Kidman could do that really well,
oh,
so
she
kind of
could. Yeah,
missed
she'd have been great.
opportunity.
Yeah, she's. I mean, she does her best with what she has in this film. Like she's when she is in those face to face shots with Val Kilmer, the reading that she's doing of his face and the tiny little micro expressions that she's doing when she's in those scenes, she's given it her all.
Hmm.
But it's quite a thin, it's quite a thin character. It's kind of like Vicky Vale. You've got a little bit of a audience surrogate, sort of a cipher to try and shed light on Bruce Wayne. Um,
Yeah.
there's always a romantic interest in every Batman film, and I don't know if
Yeah, which
that's a
is
mandate or if
interesting.
that's is that to show that he struggles to maintain a normal life, or that he's not emotionally mature enough to 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 have a relationship because they always fizzle out by the next film.
Yeah, or is it a James Bond type thing where it's
Oh, it
like we want to
probably is.
have
Yeah,
like a lead woman and yeah, that's I because I always I mean at their core to me and this is not a diss on Batman in any way, but like in some ways it is a little bit of a power fantasy. It's like what if I was really rich and I was fighting crime and I had this beautiful woman? Like that's kind of what James Bond's doing too. Like
I think I
it's
think Bob Kane
interesting
and Bill
either way
Finger said a
though.
similar thing. Yeah, I think they once
Yeah.
said, "Oh, we were poor boys when we came up
Yeah,
with this character, and we really wanted to be like, yeah, this is what it would be like."
right. And like sometimes people criticize that, but I feel like they shouldn't because like it is this is fantasy, right? Like it's
Yeah,
not reality. And so like I think that's fun. I do think that, nowadays they give the lead a little bit more to do
thank
in
God.
these
Yeah,
movies, but it is what it is. It's 1995.
the
She did a good job.
yeah, she did. Yeah, she did great. She
Yeah.
was very proud to be the first person to kiss Batman on screen.
Oh, yeah, well, and she makes a big point of that in the show too.
She
So,
does, yeah. She really goes for it.
yeah.
When you see her in interviews, she kind of comes across a little bit like Dr. Chase Meridian because
Oh,
she's sort of
really?
talking about how much she fancies Batman and how much she.
Maybe
um,
this movie made her think, "Oh, I do like
maybe I
Batman
do
now."
like Batman.
Never thought about this before. Um,
The Batman movies in general have probably the worst track record when it comes to things like the Bechdel test.
yes, that's
They're a
true.
boys' club. Yeah,
Which
they're
is funny because they're some of my favorites. Like
yeah.
I've noticed that about myself that like I tend to like some of these projects, and I don't know what that says about me, but um,
He's a
yeah.
really introspective hero. He's a really
I that's why I like him. I like the
he has
noir
the best inner
stuff.
world out of any superhero.
Yeah, I like the detective nature. I like the noir. I like the grittiness of it. Like I
Yeah,
do just like it. Well, let's talk about Robin, Chris
yeah.
O'Donnell. What are your thoughts on Robin being in this film? People have different opinions about Robin. Like, how do you feel about
Yeah.
him as a character?
He's another one of those factors that I feel like people are embarrassed to have in Batman. Um,
Hmm.
that they're like, oh, Batman's not serious if he's got Robin there, and I guess that's a hangover of the '60s TV series.
I mean,
Um,
yeah, in the 60s it's borderline. And even in some ways in this movie, I do have thoughts at certain scenes that I'm like, I wish he was younger. Like
yeah,
he's
it,
acting like a child, and I'm like, he's just, he
he's a
doesn't
real
have
teenage sort of. His
angst,
vibe
yeah.
is yeah.
But I
He's like
don't think
I'm
at the
acting out
time,
against.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's like, and I don't know why they were so afraid to just cast a teenager. Like I don't understand
I
because
guess
like,
because I don't know. Partly,
yeah,
I reckon because of it's kind of irresponsible whenever
oh
I
yeah,
always think
training a child soldier
training a
is
child
not.
to fight the war. Yeah,
Yeah, it's messed up. I mean, I think
yeah,
that probably is it, but when he's got like, a manly hairline and a square jaw, you're just a part of you is like, yes, you lost your parents, but you're not, I mean, yes, you're orphaned, but like, why do you
Yeah.
have to live with Batman? And
Oh yeah,
he
he's a
even,
20. I mean, the actor Chris O'Donnell was 25 at the time. Why does a
yeah.
25-year-old man
And he
need to
doesn't
go
look
and
like
live there?
Michael J. Fox 25. You know what I mean?
No, no, he doesn't. No,
Yeah.
I
So
think I get the
that's,
feeling there was a sort of there was a heartthrob factor
oh,
where they
for
were like,
sure.
yeah, that they were like, oh, we're going to get more people to come and see the other people they were looking at. They had Matt Damon, Jude Law, Ewan McGregor, Courtney
Interesting.
Stevens, Scott Speedman, Corey Feldman, Corey Haim, Leonardo DiCaprio, and then they chose. I mean, this is reportedly, of course,
Yeah,
alleged.
of course, of course. But I mean, a part of me does wonder, like, would that have been better to have somebody the stature of Leo in this role? You know, I don't
It
know,
would have been
but
really interesting, wouldn't it?
yeah, because like I will admit out loud that I used to not like Robin. Like I just thought,
Yeah.
like even in the animated series when he'd show up, I was
Oh,
like, oh
really?
gosh, yeah, I was like, oh, he's saving him again. He's always,
Here
I
comes
saw
Robin
him that
again.
way, and it actually wasn't until I read the comics.
Yeah,
I am totally different after reading the comics. He is now my favorite character. I actually like him more than Batman,
he's
and I
he's more
say
well-rounded,
him.
isn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, and yet there's so many different Robins, and that's what I like about that character. It's like the
Which is your favorite
concept.
Robin?
I go back and forth. For a while, I was a real big Jason Todd girl.
Yeah,
It's really hard to pick one. I mean, I guess in some ways it's Dick Grayson because I feel
yeah,
like, Dick Grayson is his original Ward,
yeah.
and he's like he's the original, and I think the comics really explore this sort of tortured side, kind of going into the darkness of like, hey, you trained me as a child soldier, and
Oh yeah.
I'm so incredibly different from you, and you're trying to put me in this box of
Oh
being
yeah.
less emotional. Like I loved all that. Like I liked the psychology of it. I thought it was really enjoyable and a really good metaphor too for like the way parents like when you think of like the silent generation and the kids that came
Yeah.
after that, I kind of liked the Batman and Robin thing reflecting that, how we get better from our parents traumas or whatever. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
going way in the weeds here, but anyways, I liked that stuff, and that's what I like about Robin. I think that in the in today's world, it is really hard to translate that onto screen for some reason. Although
Yeah.
I wonder,
In two
right?
hours, yeah.
Because, James Gunn has this idea about doing a Batman and Robin, Brave and
Oh
the Bold
yeah.
type thing, right? So who knows
Isn't
if
he? I
that'll
think
ever
it's
happen,
with
but
Damien. Yeah.
yeah, with Damien, which I also like Damien. Like I've
Mm,
liked pretty much all of them.
yeah.
For some reason, I didn't like the what was the girl's name? Carrie? I didn't
Stephanie.
like her as much.
Oh,
Yeah.
Carrie Kelly's the one in the Dark Knight Returns, and then in
Yeah,
the
I wasn't
90s
as
or
crazy
early
about
2000s
her
with
for some
Stephanie Brown. Yeah.
reason. But like the other ones, the core ones I really
Yeah,
liked.
the classic ones. Yeah.
Yeah, and it really gave me an appreciation for Batgirl for all of it when I read the comics. But
Oh yeah.
I think in the movies I was kind of like other people that had some criticism around Robin. It's like I want to see him, but at the same time, you do wonder what he adds a little bit. Although they do a good job in this film of like we talked about earlier, it's kind of around, hey, I've been where you are, and maturity is not going out and just punching random goons. It's being strategic
Yeah.
around this. I did like all that.
And it runs both ways as well
Mm-hmm.
because Batman witnesses the death of the Graysons,
Right.
and then suddenly he's tricked. This is next, almost the next scene. This has triggered flashbulb memories, and he's
Yeah.
got guilt over his own parents being convinced. I think this is something that they cut from the film, which I think went into the Schumacher cut.
Mm.
The whole thing with the Red Book was that he was feeling guilty because he convinced his parents to go to the cinema the night that they were killed,
Yikes. Okay. Yeah, and I
and
guess they
that's something
decided
that he
that was a
couldn't
little too
process.
dark, maybe.
Yeah.
Sorry, you were finishing a thought.
Oh, I don't know. I think I was thinking about Robin.
Mm-hmm.
I love when they put him in. I think it's brave. I think it's really hard to do right.
Mm-hmm.
It shouldn't be, because in the comics it works so easy.
Yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
why. I
Somehow it
even
just,
like in the
yeah.
comics how there was like a panel I saw one time where Robin was saying, you know, because he talks a lot. He's almost like Spider-Man, right?
Yeah,
Just and I remember, I can't remember which. It might have been one of the Snyder books, but Robin saying something like, "He never told me to be quiet. Like he never told me to stop talking.
yeah.
He never imposed his, you know, his emotions and things onto him." And I thought, I was like, what an interesting
They
thought. I
are.
really
They
like
like
that.
they touch on this in the animated series as well.
Yeah,
The way that Batman is brooding and dark, and he he doesn't. He has, you know, he's not a parent. He knows nothing about parenting, but he doesn't bestow that on any of his Robins. They especially Dick Grayson are a much brighter. They don't, you know, there's no generational trauma there.
mm-hmm.
Um, Dick Grayson has the opportunity to he could retire from being Robin or Nightwing if he wanted to. Batman could never give up being Batman.
Yeah, and it's almost like, I mean, in a lot of ways, right? Batman's working out his trauma through Robin. It's like
Yeah,
seeing somebody be healthy after that, because I feel like Robin just, or at least Dick Grayson, he's innately a positive person. So even when
yeah,
bad things happen, it doesn't really alter who he is, you know? And
which
so
is
I
wonderful. Yeah,
think that appeals to Bruce Wayne. Like, could I have that kind of thing? Is how I saw their relationship,
yeah. They
is
learn
always
from
trying
each
to
other.
work on
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
thought I
Yeah.
like how. I mean, these are meant to be. I think of all, all superheroes are meant to be aspirational figures. They're meant to
Sure.
be. They're meant to be. They are our modern, like, Greek myths,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like uh, to stimmy Batman in the way that we do, and to force him into being as troubled as he is, when you're telling an evolving story, so over a film series or over the comic series, um, it's it sort of runs in the wrong direction, because we,
Yeah.
when we read this, we don't want to read this and think, oh, people who feel the way that the Batman feels are going to feel that way forever. We want to read it and say to ourselves, there's a way out. There's a
Yeah.
he punches a load of bad guys and then he feels better. One of the things I love with the Snyder run, um, one of the final pages of I think it was year one, when he went back and did, no, not year one, 0 year, when he went back and did the origin of Scott Snyder's Batman.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the last issue of that, he's swinging off into the sunset and he's smiling because,
Mm.
and Alfred is talking to Julie Madison, and he says, "Oh, sorry, he's spoken for." I think that's something they repeated in Matt Reeves' The Batman. That
Yeah.
idea that he's happy in a relationship with Gotham City.
Yeah, and I like that. I like Gotham City being a character of its own. You know, just all of
Yeah,
that. It's just fun stuff.
it feels like the
Um,
residents hate living in Gotham
well,
City,
I
but for
would.
me,
I
it's
would
a
move
real
the heck out
comfort.
of there. Like,
Yeah, I
it's
would
not
not
worth
live
saving.
there.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry. I have to say.
but as soon as I see it on, if I'm playing the Arkham games, or if I'm
Yeah.
whatever I'm engaging with, if I open a comic and the first page is like the usually there'll be a scene setter and it will be a distant shot of Gotham City or something like that. I'm like, yeah, I'm back. And
Yes. Yeah. Well, those games are so immersive. I mean, as
yeah,
well. But yeah.
I
Well,
just I love the feel of it. Yeah.
yeah. Do you want to talk a little bit about Alfred? We haven't talked
Oh
about Michael
yeah,
Go's
yeah.
Alfred. Yeah, he was Alfred for a
He
long time.
he
Probably the
was, yeah, for
longest.
all four films in that period. Yeah. Um, I um, I mean, I obviously I love him as Alfred, and one of the things I really like is I like I like that we've got, so the last three Alfreds that we've had have been quite militant or quite military. Like, they all feel like they've had that kind of a background.
Yeah, and very, yeah, very,
Yeah,
very straight-laced
but I quite
Alfreds.
like
Yeah.
that he differentiates himself a little bit, because he
Mm-hmm.
is he's a lifelong butler. He
Yeah.
says in this film he was working at Buckingham Palace prior to working with the
Wow.
Waynes, and then you see in the flashbacks in Batman and Robin that he's been with the family since Bruce was a child.
Yeah, I feel like Alfred often gets an interesting backstory because
Yeah,
you wonder about him, right? Like he's a
yeah,
butler and yet he's got all these special skills. So in some iterations, he's also a bodyguard or former
yeah,
bodyguard, former MI6, fun backgrounds
yeah.
for him. But yeah, you're right. This guy's a little bit different and just comes across as very sweet and
He's a lovely old man, isn't he?
yeah,
He's
he's just like a sweet grandpap. I mean, he's great.
Yeah.
I
I
love
think
him.
that's his function, isn't it? He's
Yeah.
it's I mean, in every version, he is Batman's dad that he doesn't listen to.
Yeah, it's interesting. Batman's very like, I'm tortured and I don't have a family, but he keeps having a son and he keeps
Yeah,
having a father relationship. Like he, in a
he
lot of
always
ways,
meets a
is
family.
surrounded
Yeah.
by family.
I think
Like,
they go
yeah.
into that quite a lot in the Lego Batman film, don't they?
Oh yeah, yeah. I love the Lego Batman
The
film.
idea,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
so
the
good.
idea that he's terrified of building a new family, and then he just does it when he's without looking.
Yeah,
He's
he's like, I work alone except with my
except I've got
entire
Alfred, who's my
extended.
dad, and
Yeah,
Robin, who's my son, and Batgirl, who's my daughter, and
yeah.
yeah,
He's got a lot of
and Gordon,
connections.
who's my brother, and
Yeah, so funny.
I really love Michael Gough in this, and I really love how he's really sassy.
Yeah,
I like how he says all that, like he prepares that massive plate of burgers and onion rings. Oh, I wonder if the dogs are hungry. That
yeah,
kind of that kind of thing. But he is the voice of reason,
yeah.
and Bruce learns from him in Batman '89. He learns from him in this film. I'm pretty sure he learns from him in Batman and Robin. This one you sort of see it the most because he he's trying to tell him how to handle Robin. He knows how to handle Robin because he's been like a dad
Yeah, because he's
to
mirroring the
Batman.
same
Yeah,
energy and the same anger.
yeah, and he doesn't listen to him. And this is sort of a theme. You get this in the Christopher Nolan ones as well.
Oh,
That
for sure.
usually very early on, Michael Caine will say to him, Bruce, I've got an important life lesson for you, and this is what you should do. And Batman just ignores him for the whole film and then learns the lesson by the end of the film.
He's like, but this is my idea now. But
Yeah,
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 yeah, Batman's always been a little stubborn. I mean, that's
yeah. That's
part of
part of
his
his
character.
character. Yeah, and I mean, you
Yeah,
have to go on an arc, and this is a film that does have, Batman
it really
doesn't always have
does.
one. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's quite a flat arc for him. This one in Batman Forever, he does actually learn something,
Yeah,
and
he's like, he
he
shouldn't be
comes to terms
alone.
with his own decisions. Yeah,
Yeah, he has a partner by the end of this film. That's very
and
true.
he's happy being that. Or so he's sort of when he says to the Riddler at the very end of the film, he says, "I'm not Batman because I have to be. I'm now Batman because I choose to be." Because he's been mulling over. He quits for about 5 minutes of the film.
Yeah.
He's been mulling over, and like you said earlier, it's wonderful when they explore that, like in like the episode of Batman the Animated Series Trial, where they're exploring: has he actually done any good, or did he create the villains that with and they explore that in the Nolan ones as well. Of
Oh,
course,
yeah, big question, right?
yeah,
Like,
you've got the
yeah,
Joker probably wouldn't exist,
they up the ante because of his existence.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jim Gordon says, "Oh, this is escalation. This is we get semi-automatics, they get automatics. You start dressing in Kevlar, being really theatrical, and now they're going, oh wait, what a great idea. We should do that too." Um, and I love when they explore that, and that, like you say, it would have been quite cool if they could have gone into that in this film if he was going through that crises of whether
Hmm.
he wanted to cease being Batman,
Yeah.
which it feels a little bit out of the blue when it happens in the film. I think that might be an editing thing,
I
and
think
I think
so,
it's
especially since you talked
yeah,
about the Schumacher
Oh,
cut.
of
I
course,
mean,
yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think it might be purely because of Robin. I think he says, "I've been saving faces I've never met. Um, now there is a real face. Now there is somebody who I
Who he
care about
cares
who's going
about,
to be
yeah.
who's going to be affected by this." And obviously, Robin doesn't listen to him.
Of course.
Yeah,
Like father, like son, you know.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. What about, so I don't, there's not a whole lot of other super recognizable names for me, but I mean, a big one is Drew Barrymore as
Yeah,
Sugar, which I like honestly forget she's in this, and then I see it
yeah.
again and I'm like, oh wait, because she doesn't do a ton
No, she
in
hardly
it.
does
Yeah.
anything, does she? But she is quite funny when I love when she meets Bruce Wayne and
Yeah,
he
she's like,
asks
you
her
can call
name.
me
You can
whatever.
call me anything you like. Yeah,
Yeah. And her styling is both very old Hollywood, but also extremely 1995. Like
oh
I
yeah,
like that, you know, the curls in the hair, the short hair, the pin thin eyebrows, like all of it.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, she looks.
Um,
She's, um, yeah. The idea of having, I actually really, even though they don't really get a whole lot to do,
yeah.
the idea of having a good and a bad, like
Girlfriend, yeah.
yeah, for
It's
Two
kind of
Face
like
is
an
really
angel and a
fun.
devil on his shoulder, which they
Yeah.
could have leaned more into,
Well,
honestly. I
that
would
would
have
have been
liked that.
awesome if they'd actually, if he, if she'd tried to influence the Harvey Dent side, which you really don't hardly see in
No, no, but
present.
it would be kind of like a Harley Quinn-esque relationship that I think would be
Yeah,
interesting.
if she'd sort
Um,
of whispered in his ear, this is, why don't we give, why don't we give some of these diamonds we stole back to the city, or that would have been a great direction for her character.
yeah, maybe someday they can revisit that.
Yeah.
So the only other actor I really recognize, and I have to give a shout out, he's at the very end of the film, but it's Rene Auberjonois because
Oh, he's Dr. Burton.
I am a diehard Deep Space Nine fan. I have a Deep Space Nine tattoo.
All right.
And Odo is my favorite character. So I like fell in a rabbit hole when that show came out and would watch everything he was in. I mean, very strange character for like a 9 or 10 year old at the time when that show came
Yeah,
out to attach to. But gosh, I followed. You know, this was
that was the
before
90s though.
IMDb. Yeah,
There
yeah,
was
yeah,
nobody was thinking about, who is this appropriate for? Like, it feels like
yeah. Agreed.
when a film or a television show is made now, before they even have greenlit it, they know who the audience is going to be,
That's a
exactly
good point.
the demographic. Whereas in the 90s, it just feels like they just went, that sounds like a good idea. Go and make that, and
Yeah,
we'll try and fit it to someone.
we'll try to make a bunch of toys for this
Yeah,
Dick
I mean,
Tracy movie that children aren't allowed to see. You know, it's
exactly.
like
Yeah,
what?
or
Yeah.
Terminator. There were loads of toys
Yes.
for the Terminator films, or even Batman. Batman Returns were both 15s here in the UK. I don't know if does that make it a. I'm not sure if
Yeah,
that
I think
makes
it
it
was
an
PG
R or
13. So
yeah,
over here in the States, so that would be, yeah, 13 and up
yeah.
suggested. Yeah.
So I mean, I was buying the Kenner toys, but I wouldn't have been allowed to see it in the cinema.
I remember being afraid to watch Jurassic Park, but loving
Oh
the
yeah,
toys, you know, like it. Yeah, I had not thought about that around
oh,
that.
yeah.
Now
That
I
was
feel
another
like,
one where I had to wait for the VHS.
yeah, it's like, okay, I'll wait till I'm a little bit older so I can watch it. I remember being terrified watching it and then being obsessed with dinosaurs because
Oh,
what kid
such
isn't, you know?
another mate, just another one of the best films of the 90s.
Yeah.
And admittedly, both the Jurassic Park films kind of they don't make I mean, the production design, everything about Batman Forever is fantastic, but when you get to the CGI and stuff like that,
Yeah.
it's pretty good for a 90s film.
Yeah, I agree.
But films like Jurassic Park, The Matrix, and the Star Wars Episode 1 are the sort of 90s films that make you go, oh, they could have done even better. Look at
Yeah,
this.
yeah, yeah. I
I
think
mean,
yeah.
there are some. I mean, I love the way his cape looks whenever he
Hmm.
like drops down, and I love the way when the helicopter blasts into the eye at the beginning. That
Yeah.
looks amazing. Yeah,
Yeah, I think, and with the Batman movies, I think this trend started with Tim Burton of, he filmed them all on a soundstage and it feels like that, but that's okay because Gotham doesn't feel like a real place. It feels like it's a play, and I think the Joel
yeah, exactly like
Schumacher
a
kind
play.
of
Yeah,
has that vibe to it. So I can go with that for what it is. And I forgot to say about Rene Auberjonois' character, obviously
of course,
being called Dr. Burton is an
Dr.
obvious
Burton and looking
nod to
like
Tim
Tim
Burton.
Burton.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah.
that's very cheeky. There's a couple of cheeky. It's funny because by the time of Batman and Robin, everything is they're almost goading us. Whereas in
Yes.
Batman Forever, we're still kind of coming out of Tim Burton territory, and so mostly they don't. The big clanger that they drop in terms of speaking directly to the audience and trying to sort of almost take us out of it is when Robin does the holy rusted metal Batman. Yeah, that.
Yeah, yeah, they got to throw in one or two of those, can't
Yeah.
have Robin without that. Are there any other actors that we haven't talked about that you wanted to go over from the
Oh,
cast?
we've not gone for Jim yet.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Go
No.
ahead.
Oh, Pat Hingle is still there.
Mm-hmm.
He's Commissioner Gordon in all four of the
Oh, yeah,
movies,
that's right.
and it's kind of short shrift. I mean, if they were doing Batman Year One, he would have a he would it's a beefy role, and that's kind of what they eventually then did with Gary Oldman. Um, but it's still kind of like the '60s
Yeah,
TV
he's kind of like
series.
a ding
Yeah,
dong a little bit. Like
yeah,
he's
he's like
not
going, "Oh,
really.
there's a problem. I'd better ring Batman."
Yeah. Yeah, he's like, and they're not like close partners, and he's
No,
not an intellectual equal, the way that
no.
that 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 Gary Oldman plays him,
Gary
or
Oldman
even
just
Jeffrey Wright.
transformed that
Yeah.
role, yeah. And Jeffrey, oh, I love
Yeah.
Jeffrey
I
Wright in
love
that.
Jeffrey
I was
Wright's
so
Gordon.
excited when he got cast.
Me too. I was like,
Amazing
wow,
job.
inspired casting. Like it was right around the time too that I was watching a lot of
Oh, Westworld.
Westworld. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I was like, oh,
Oh,
yes,
yeah, he
heck
was so
yeah.
cool in
Snaps
that.
to that. That's a great cast.
We
Yeah, I agree
I was
about
watching.
Pat
I saw it on
Hingle.
Fandom. They did that online convention during
Oh, that's
COVID,
right. I
and
remember that.
the announcement on that, and they put out the short trailer with the Nirvana track on it, and I was just so excited. I was like, oh my god, it's
Same.
Jeffrey Wright, and he's a grizzled kind of, not a huge jump away from Gary Oldman version
Yeah.
of this character, and then the reveal of seeing Paul Dano and Zoe Kravitz and everyone in that was just
So good. So
that's the
good.
film that passes the Bechdel test.
It definitely does.
Only just.
Yeah, only
Um,
just.
she
But
speaks.
yeah, it does.
She speaks to uh, Selena speaks to a woman in the 44 Below about Annika
Yeah.
when she's doing her recon with those lenses in. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Man, I gotta go back and watch that again. But back to Pat Hingle, I will say, he's in all four of these films, but
Hmm.
he's certainly, like you said, but he certainly doesn't stand out the
No,
way that Alfred does. I mean, he is like, it's kind of like I forget that he's in these.
yeah, it's quite kind of a. It's not a forgiving. It's not a very It's the role itself is just totally sidelined.
Yeah.
I think there's a comic series, Batman '89 comic series, where they delve into
Mm.
him a little bit more,
Oh,
and
interesting.
him and his daughter, and his relationship to Bruce and his relationship to Billy D. Williams as Harvey Dent and that kind of stuff. But yeah, in
Interesting.
the actual
Okay.
films, I mean, it gets to the fourth one, and he's almost. I mean, he's barely in it already, but once you get to the fourth one, I think he gets two scenes. By
Yeah,
the
I
by
think
that
like you
point,
said it, he's very much a like I better get the red phone kind of
Yeah,
guy.
yeah,
You
he's
know,
definitely that guy.
so
Which is really fun. I mean,
yeah.
I love him in the '60s show. I love the
Yeah, yeah.
him talking to Chief O'Hara. Maybe they should have given Pat Hingle Chief O'Hara
Oh yeah.
character.
And what was that lady's name too that lived in their house? I can't remember. In the
Oh, the
Batman,
one
what was
who
her
lived
name?
with Batman.
Yes.
She was Dick's aunt,
Yeah.
Aunt Harriet or something like that.
Yeah. I loved
Yeah,
her too. It's just
yeah.
really
And the way
funny
they had to
show.
keep hiding from her, they had to keep. Oh, are you ready for that fishing trip? That.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was awesome.
That was
Oh yeah,
good.
sorry, Jim Carrey.
Oh, yeah, back to Jim Carrey. Yes.
The Bachelors wrote the Riddler with Robin Williams in mind.
I could see that.
Yeah. He eventually declined when Tim Burton was left.
Mm,
And they were looking at Matthew Broderick,
no,
Brad Dourif, Steve Martin, Damon Wayans,
Steve
Mickey
Martin, I could
Dolenz
see.
of the Monkees.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh,
I could
what?
sort of see Steve Martin, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it would be very different.
And
But
reportedly Michael Jackson.
oh gosh. Okay, well,
That would have
Captain
really steered it
EO.
in a different direction, yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, not my first choice for
No,
sure, but no, I think I mean, how do you not cast Jim Carrey in
exactly.
1995? I
Yeah,
mean I mean, he's this is after I think Ace Ventura
yeah,
and
that
just all the
1994 year, he had Ace Ventura, The Mask, and Dumb and Dumber all out in the same year, didn't
that's
he?
so crazy to think about. I think I forget about that.
Yeah. Yeah, he was kind of riding high, wasn't he? And I can't picture any of them more than Jim Carrey in the role. Even Robin Williams. I think Robin Williams would have been a really cool Riddler, but
I
I
think
think he suits
so.
Jim Carrey even more.
Yeah, at least this version,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
yeah.
I was actually when I remember when the Christopher Nolan films, they were starting to work on those, and there was a lot of like rumors flying around who was going to be in it and stuff. And I saw a load of people doing, those photoshops that people do. They're like, oh, this is what I think the movie poster should look like.
Yeah.
And people were doing, I remember people doing Robin Williams as a sinister version of the Riddler.
Probably because of
thinking,
12-hour
that would be
photo
cool.
or whatever that was called.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, or like Insomnia, he's quite.
That's right.
He's kind of lovely and sinister in Insomnia.
No, I could have totally seen Robin Williams as a bad villain for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, that would have been good. I would have liked that.
That would have been cool. They would. I think they sort of strung him along a bit because I think they were talking. I think they used him as leverage to get Jack Nicholson on Batman '89. I think they were like going to Jack Nicholson. By the way, we're talking to Robin Williams, and then they gave it to Jack.
Interesting.
He's got Jim Carrey was familiar with the '60s series, and there is a lot of Frank Gorshin in his Riddler.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like there are criticisms that he's being more of the Joker, and I kind of made that observation this morning when I was watching it with my husband, and he said, "No, I think he's leaning more into the 1966 Riddler."
Yeah, he's so he's just bouncing off the walls, isn't he? And he's got designs on the city in a similar way, and he feels there's a sort of hard done by motivation in the same way as Jack Napier. He said, Jim said of the role, it's about loving yourself and seeing somebody who's the guy you'd love to be and resenting him for it.
Yeah.
And he's very he practiced the cane twirling in front of the mirror every night, apparently. It's weird to think that Gorshin didn't get the cane John Astin did get the cane in the '60s series.
Oh, I hadn't thought of that.
It's so the Riddler that it sort of seems weird that he didn't have it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's just this. I mean, I love the Riddler. I love the Riddler in the comics as well. This exuberant, obsessive nerd.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite characters.
Yeah,
I
feel sorry for him as well because he doesn't. It doesn't feel like he's respected by the other super.
No, and he's always so obsessed with knowledge and besting Batman, but it always feels like it's just his ego. Like he doesn't have a really good motive compared to some of the other villains. So I think that's what a part of you was always like, I kind of feel sorry for him. Yeah, like I'm like, he's kind of embarrassing because because it's all about his ego, but loved, I've loved many versions of the Riddler, and I really liked, Paul Dano's version.
Oh yeah.
I thought when I saw Paul Dano was casted as the Riddler, I was like, "What? This is inspired casting." I mean, he is a great.
He cares about it, isn't it? He wrote there's a comic series.
Oh really?
6-issue comic series written by Paul Dano.
Oh well, I think he's such a great actor.
It's quite heavy going though. It's quite. It fits with what we know about that Riddler in that he had a depressing life.
Yeah, I gotta pick that up. But yeah,
it's Riddler, really interesting though. Yeah,
some great villains in this one. I mean, Two-Face, the Riddler, some of my favorites.
Yeah, two absolutely iconic characters. He's a little bit of the one from the animated series, I think so. Yeah, I liked the John Glover, in the animated series. He hates Mockridge, his boss, and then and then similarly, it seems like the whole motivation for Edward Nygma in this is a sort of a really misplaced hate for Bruce Wayne, which he idolized him. And then he met him and he said, okay, well, speak to my assistant and we'll sort something out. And then he pushes him and gets rejected. And then he's like, oh, that's all his fault, not my fault at all.
No, again, just all about ego and not really about anything else. And then he's got this invention that kind of looks like a blender.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah,
it's where
goofy and fun. Yeah.
Where he's got it on and he's doing he's sucking the energy from his boss's brain, from Stickley. And it's the first time in the film that we get to see Jim Carrey unleashed. And he's doing his whole game show voice.
Yeah. He's like really part game show host, part mad scientist.
When he drops him off of the out of the window and says, form was good, but I can't remember. Rough landing, he may have to settle for the bronze or something like that.
Do you feel like this is at a time where game shows were a big deal? Like, I wonder if people nowadays think about that. Like, because are game shows and game show hosts still so important?
Not as big a deal. Yeah, I mean, with all the choice that people have got now.
Yeah, maybe reality TV. MCs maybe have more of that role now than.
I mean, Paul Dano's Riddler is kind of. He's like an influencer, isn't he? He's like a
like an incel almost, or
he's definitely an incel,
or a little bit. I mean, definitely some influence from Saw there, right?
Yeah.
Very, very, very different take, but more similar to what people are going through at the time. I always think it's interesting to think about that with a film about what is it saying about 1995, and I do feel like too, I've never thought about that till you said that, but I really feel like the Riddler, that game show stuff, game shows were bigger back then.
When you watch Star Wars, you're also getting a snapshot of 1977 as well.
Absolutely, yeah
and it's I really I really love that about those films. The game show was huge as well. And you didn't have the choice, did you?
No.
You just turned on the television. You had to accept what was there.
Watched a lot of Wheel of Fortune.
Exactly,
Like,
yeah. We
no,
had
I didn't love it, but I watched it.
we had 4 channels at that
Mhm.
time,
Yeah.
um, and it was just Family Fortunes and Higher or Lower and things like that. It was just yeah, and he does feed into that. He even goes back to the game show format for the finale, doesn't he? When they're on Claw Island and they're up in those big tubes, suddenly he goes into this is a game show and these are our contestants, and yeah, it does instantly say, oh, this was 1995.
Yes. And I like that. Okay, well, we've gone through the cast, I think.
Yeah.
But what else do you want to talk about? Are there any scenes specifically? I know we've talked about a lot of them,
Oh,
kind of
I've got one
organically,
more. I've got one more sort
yeah.
of cast member,
Oh, go for it, go for it.
and that is the car.
How do we talk about Batman and not talk about the Batmobile? Good call out. Good call out. Is this your favorite Batmobile?
I think my favorite is still the 1989.
That's a good one.
I
Iconic.
love the sort of jet engine thing down the middle. But this is up there. I mean, it's hard because I don't hate any of them. I
Yeah.
love all of the Batmobiles. The more real it is, the more I like it. So the Zack Snyder one, I find a little bit too CGI. But I mean, it was a real cut. They always build them, but annoyingly, they sort of then switch into CGI for a lot of the action. This was also a real car. It could do 100 miles an hour.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
It had a hot air balloon propane burner unit
Sounds
as an
safe.
exhaust. I can't believe they could do it. Actually, yes. There's just that's why there's just this eruption of fire coming out of the back of it at
Oh
all
my
times.
gosh, yeah.
Schumacher requested an organic look for the Batmobile.
In my brain, the Batmobile looks like the Michael Keaton movies. I think because that was the first. But I love the Bat Pod, whatever it's called, the one from the Dark Knight trilogy. I love
the
that
Tumbler,
one.
yeah.
The Tumbler, thank you.
Yeah.
And I love the 1966 one. I mean, I just.
Oh yeah, that's so cool. Yeah, I've got that.
Yeah. I feel like the Keaton one and the Schumacher one and the Adam West one, that is what, like, if you say a Batmobile, that's what it looks like.
Yeah.
And I like all of them, but that is, to me, it's like, what does a picture of a dog looks like? I think of this kind of dog. It's like that. It's like,
it's hard
that's
to
what
choose,
I think
isn't
of.
it? But yeah, and the same goes for the music as well. Because
100%. Yeah.
if somebody says to me, "What's the Batman theme?" Obviously, I'm
You're gonna be
familiar
like,
with every single Batman theme, but yeah, it's the Danny Elfman one is the ingrained one, isn't it? Although the Elliot Goldenthal one on this film is brilliant.
Yeah, I enjoy all of them, as you said. It's like picking
Yeah.
a favorite Bond song.
It is,
Not to
isn't
bring
it?
that
Yeah.
back, but yeah, I just yeah, I
like with
it.
I mean, we've just been, it's just an embarrassment of riches when it comes to Batman. We've always had excellent actors, there's always been a brilliant score. We've had Hans Zimmer,
Yeah.
and there's always a brilliant Batmobile.
Yes, you got to have an amazing car. Yeah.
So he wanted it to be quite sensual, because that's what he was going for with Batman.
Well, yeah, because he's like exploring relationships in this one.
Yeah. So he went to H.R. Geiger, the guy from Alien, the guy that designed Alien.
Yeah.
And H.R. Geiger did a design for it, which you can Google. And
I mean, is that going to flag me? Is that? No, I'm just kidding.
No.
I just think of some of Geiger's designs. I was joking.
It's the reason that it didn't get made is it's just too difficult to do in real life. It's totally impractical. So he went to a fellow called Tim Flattery, who drew a biomechanical design that was practical and showcased the machinery like beneath a skeletal surface. And apparently he looked at fish as an inspiration for those little cutouts that are all over the car. And then it sort of glows through, which again is not. If you were making a real life, one of the ones that's supposed to feel like real life, it wouldn't fit. But in the world of Joel Schumacher, it looks amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that car. I think it looks amazing. I've seen most of them in real life, and
really.
I've actually seen nearly all the suits as well, all the different costumes. I went to it was called the Dawn of Superheroes exhibition at the Art Ludique museum in Paris. And I recently went to there was an exhibition called Batman Unmasked in Covent Garden in London.
Very cool.
They just seeing the things in real life. There is a weird feeling with I recently saw the Robert Pattinson Batmobile, and it's really overwhelming. Like, that's it's designed to look like it could be a real car, but when you're so close to it, I mean, it's huge for a start. But it's beautiful to see. It's hard to describe.
I love it. Is there anything else that we haven't talked about yet that you want to cover?
Costumes, I was thinking about.
Let's talk about costumes. I love to talk about costumes. Yeah. Big shock, I know. Yeah, talk about it. How does the Schumacher costume for you compare to the Michael Keaton?
Oh yeah, I mean, they're all so cool. I really love the first. I really love the armor of the second costume, the returns costume.
Can I ask a silly question?
Yeah, sure.
In this movie, does he go from the Keaton one to the armored one at the end? Like, does his costume change?
Yeah, so they're both new costumes. He gets two. He gets and in the first most of the film, he's wearing. They call it the Panther suit, and it's it bears a lot of similarities to the original 1989 Keaton suit. In that
I remember the part where he gets his new suit, and there's some controversial tush shots and nipples but like I was like, it dawned on me this time watching it. I'm like, wait, is he wearing the Michael Keaton suit in the beginning? So you're saying sort of a blend, and maybe they couldn't, for legal reasons or whatever, actually wear the Tim Burton one, but it's a definite like, hey, this is my Batman, and so he like graduates.
Oh, definitely, yeah. I think that's very clear through the whole of the Schumacher experience, is that he puts his stamp on every part of it, doesn't he? The city gets redesigned, and every actor is recast. Marlon Wayans was going to be Robin, and then they recast. I already mentioned that. Rene Russo was going to be Dr. Chase Meridian when they still had Keaton, and then they got rid of her and they brought on Nicole Kidman, and with the suits, it's funny because like you say, this was something where they were looking for a younger audience, but the aesthetic that he was going for was a very sensual look.
It got a lot of jokes and snide remarks in the 90s, but I mean, he is a gay man, and so what if he's catering to the male gaze here? Like, lean into that. Like, that's
brilliant.
fun. And it looks good.
Actually, I think the Panther suit is one of the better looking suits, and I think they'd actually started. I think I've seen behind the scenes stuff where they had started on a suit like that for Keaton, and then they obviously had to change what they were up to because Val Kilmer is that much taller than
Yeah. I
Michael
never
Keaton.
thought about how tall he is, honestly.
Yeah,
In
there's
my
quite
mind, he was
yeah.
like smaller, but no, he's pretty tall.
I mean, because Michael Keaton's so he's probably the shortest Batman, I
Yeah,
suppose.
I would guess maybe 5'7",
Yeah, I
5'8".
think
Yeah,
he is about that,
he's
isn't he? Yeah.
smaller. Yeah. But
Um,
what a great actor. Yeah. And
they'd
hey, as a
learned.
short person, I
Why?
respect
Yeah.
it.
And obviously he worked. Yeah, he worked opposite Danny DeVito.
Right.
He oh yeah, I love Michael Keaton. I was watching the other day his clips from him in The Other Guys. He's so funny in that.
Oh, I love that movie. Oh my gosh. Could do a whole podcast on that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Um,
Great movie.
they they made 40 duplicates
Oh
of
my
each suit
gosh.
because from the previous films had taught them that they're easily damaged and they shrink and they melt. Um, the I kind of feel like I can't I can't altogether trust my own judgment on this because I think cowboy boots look cool.
Hmm.
I think speedos look cool. I think they do a comeback. The Joel Schumacher said, "I didn't know the male nipple was a controversial body part." That was his. This is where we were in the 1950s. I think
I
you
know.
when you spoke to I think it was when you spoke to Stu about Sin City.
Oh, that's
We
right.
talked
That's
about
right.
the comics code,
Yes,
Wortham
yes.
and the seduction of the innocent. And it's so funny
Hmm.
that we're still there, that we're still kind of there.
We still struggle
Whereas
with that. But yeah, I think a lot of it probably comes from that. And I mean, even if
yeah,
it wasn't a Batman film, there would still be for any big blockbuster to have any sort of mention or hint at certain themes are, we were still kind of, I think, coming out of a lot of the over censorship,
yeah.
so yeah.
Especially, I mean, I guess 1995
It
wasn't
wasn't
the
the 80s, but it was
yeah,
still,
but it's still. I mean, yeah, it's the 1995 wasn't very good compared to now for sure. Yeah,
yeah. And it's yeah, it's complicated, right? But I remember making all the jokes and all that. Now that I'm older, I'm like, that's cringy of me. Like, these
yeah.
costumes look good, they're well made.
Yeah, they look great. Like when Nicole Kidman sort of is very clearly showing how excited she is by this costume.
Yeah.
It's it looks great, doesn't it? Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's a good looking costume. And one of my favourite quotes from Kevin Conroy, who's probably my favourite Batman.
Oh, perfect voice. Just a perfect blend of both Bruce Wayne
Yeah,
and Batman, which I think is really a lot of Batman actors that portray them. They're really good at one or the other, but it's
yeah,
hard to be both. And Kevin Conroy could be both.
he is, isn't he? And especially, yeah, and it's funny because he never goes gravelly. He never goes
No Christian
Christian
Bale.
Bale.
Yeah.
That real yeah. But but he's still commanding as Batman, which is
He seems
awesome.
like two different people. I'm actually looking right now at a picture of a signed autograph from Kevin Conroy, just to
Oh,
let our audience know how deep in it I am. It's right next to my desk, so.
so this is the quote from him. He says, "Orestes, Achilles, Agamemnon. They were the way they taught morality. In our culture, we have Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman."
Yeah.
And I love the idea that our superheroes are Jungian archetypes,
Hmm.
that they are Greek myths,
Yeah.
and
I like
that's
that
why they're
too.
so popular now. That we've got that they've flooded the market.
I really
Um,
feel that that's what Zack Snyder was trying to say in
oh,
his
definitely,
films, and it was met with so much
they're mythic, aren't
laughter and like not understanding. And I always thought, but that kind of is what they are,
they?
and
Yeah.
like other actors have pointed that out. Like even I think it was Jared Leto actually as the
Oh,
Joker
really?
that
There's the
said
joke.
something like, this is Greek theater, this is like a Greek
It is,
tragedy,
isn't it?
and
Yeah.
it's like,
And it's these big, bold, over
yeah,
the top ideas,
yeah,
and they're their morality, aren't they? especially, I mean, this film, everyone who's good is good, everyone who's bad is bad. And
Right.
sometimes that's what you need. Sometimes that's what you need to see.
And I think
So
sometimes we get so in our heads about like film critique that it's like we're embarrassed to admit how much we like something, or
yeah,
embarrassed to explore all these things. And like somebody may listen to this and be jaded and say like, I can't believe they're going on about Batman like it's Shakespeare, like these people are nuts. But like but these things do have relations to some of
yeah,
these things, and they are interesting to talk about. Like,
and they
what I'm
resonate.
trying to say
Yeah,
is
Batman is
have
a
fun talking about movies and talking about the theme. Like it's fun to do, with
yeah.
something you really like.
We've all experienced we've all struggled through life, and to have aspirational figures that we can attach ourselves to, and to have even just the catharsis of seeing something as simple as superheroes being able to solve their problems, um, in as simple ways as they do. you know, um, we, I feel like there is something deeper to them, and something inspiring about them. Batman's superpower is that he never gives up.
Yeah,
Um,
that he continues. I
yeah,
agree. I mean,
and
like, he's
persevere.
rich and all that, but a lot of people are rich and they're
Yeah.
not doing this, So like, it's not the money.
Yeah, we haven't got them in real life, which is terrible because we have got real billionaires.
Billionaires, are you listening?
Yeah,
We need a Batman. I mean, well, I shouldn't
please,
put that into
please.
the universe because that sounds like I'm asking for a vigilante, which I
Oh
am.
yeah,
I want to be clear. I'm not asking for that. To anyone listening, I am not
there's
asking for that. But I'm
there
just
was a
saying, use your money for good. That's all I mean.
there was a DC promotion a few years ago where they were launching. When they do one of their relaunches, and their tagline was superheroes now more than ever, and I love that because that's what they're meant to be. They're meant to be inspiring. Sorry, the reason I brought the Conroy quote up is because the Greek statues are what partly what they were going off when they were designing the suit,
I
and
can
Greek
totally see
statues have
that.
nipples.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, and then he
Yeah.
gets, he gets the other suit at the end of the film, which is like a bit more armored. I think they call it the sonar suit. And Clooney's suits are kind of like echoes of the two suits from the Forever. So Clooney gets a sort of
Oh yeah.
sculpted one in the first half of the film, and then at the end
Yeah.
of the film, he gets like an armored one painted all silver and that kind of thing.
Yeah. I like
Um,
the armor. I like that.
yeah, yeah. Um, Robin's suit is based on the best Robin suit in my opinion, from the from Batman history, which is the Tim Drake suit.
Yes, he's very
The
Tim
comic.
Drake
Yeah,
looking, but he is Jason
but he's Dick
Todd-esque.
Grayson. Yeah. Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
but then he's
he's
named
Jason
Dick
in
Grayson. Yeah,
character. Sorry.
yeah. He's kind of a meld of those. Yeah, for
He
sure.
is, isn't he? Yeah. They had prosthetics covering Jim Carrey's eyebrows so that they had a clean edge on the domino mask.
Oh, interesting. I
Um,
always find the cowls so interesting.
yeah, how they do it.
Yeah, because I mean, Michael Keaton, as you know, famously could not turn his head around.
And yeah, you can see
And
it.
you could see the like surprise kind of animatronic way that he would like spin around.
Yeah.
And that continued to be kind of an issue with
Mm.
all the Batman, and
Oh,
it's
Val Kilmer does it loads. Yeah, he's
yeah.
spinning around. Yeah.
Yeah, but what are your thoughts on, I mean, do you have feelings about how high the bat ears are? Should there be ears?
Oh,
Should they
yeah.
be small? Like
I like.
what's your
I'm a,
favorite
I'm a fan of
cowl?
the big ones.
You like the bigger ones?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I think Pattinson's are pretty big too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think. Uh, I think the small ones on Affleck are not they're not
They
as
look like
they're just not big enough for me.
they look pit bullish to me.
Yeah.
Takes him from a bat to
Admittedly,
maybe.
though, they're sort of inspired by Dark Knight Returns, and it never bothered me in Dark
Mm,
Knight Returns because he's a more bullish Batman, isn't he? He's quite a
yes, he's
you know
definitely, yeah.
we've got with Val Kilmer we've got quite a live, almost Neil Adams Batman,
Yes, yeah.
and then with Ben Affleck we've got that huge Frank Miller. But I find that one it's very dour. The Batman v Superman version. I think of him a little bit as Depression Batman because
Oh,
he's
absolutely. He's having
yeah
a crisis. That whole, I mean, it's like, right, it feels like it's not that long after Robin died. Spoiler alert.
yeah,
Um,
and
and
that's
yeah, that's what he's
why
going
he's so
through.
out of character some of the time. You know why he's attacking Superman is
Yeah,
because
it's
he's
meant to be that
spiraling.
he's,
Yeah,
and in some ways, I feel like Batman. Sometimes I think of him as a character that's struggling with depression. Like
yeah,
I
definitely.
think that fits who
That's
he
another
is,
one of the
but
things that makes him so relatable. Yeah, yeah, definitely.
exactly, like, and we've all got, like, maybe a cast of friends where there's one person, right, that's more brooding, that's more negative,
Yeah.
that's more maybe struggles with depression, and so, like you said, that makes him feel very human, and why we like him. And I think it's why, as a moody teenager, I probably gravitated more to him than to Superman. I did not
Yeah,
identify with a handsome jock that everybody loves. So, like,
yeah.
I think that's why Batman has continued to be so much bigger, I think, than Superman, is because
Yeah,
of that. He's
he's
just,
still the cornerstone of
yeah, he's more
the
relatable.
flagship
Hmm.
of DC. Yeah,
I love this discussion, by the way, just about the costume. I mean, we're really going deep here, and
oh
I
yeah.
love that. I love that.
I'm a big fan with Riddler. I'm a big fan of the suits rather than
Hmm.
the unitards.
Thank you. Thank you. And I think, some of that is, what we saw, what we grew up with, but
Yeah,
I think I just like a good suit,
yeah.
honestly. So
It's
I
sophisticated.
prefer, yeah, like same with the Joker. I mean, I want him to be in a suit, you
Yeah,
know?
and that's the one of the other things is that I like that they kind of match. That you've got like in the animated series, you
Yeah.
could have the Riddler, Two Face, Penguin, the Joker, um, Scarface. You can have a whole host of them. They're all wearing suits, and it kind of looks good
They're
to have them all
they're
together. Yeah,
thugs,
yeah.
they're
The mobsters, aren't they?
they're
Yeah,
mobsters. Yeah, it's
yeah.
organized crime. It's I love it.
Mm.
That's my favorite version of them. I like the
Yeah.
organized crime angle. The more they lean into the mobster stuff, the more I'm into it.
Well, that's one of the many reasons why the Dark Knight is still the one to beat.
Oh, for sure.
Um, a lot of people lay that exclusively at Heath Ledger's door, but there's so much else in that film as well. I think
No, it's very,
it's just a perfect film.
we covered it last year or this year, however you want to
Well, yeah. Oh,
think of it.
congratulations
But
on 8 years, by the
oh,
way.
yes, thank you. Thank you so much. I don't get to do this as much as I used to, but I'm still doing it. But I was going to say that yes, I think The Dark Knight, sure. Heath Ledger, wonderful performance, Oscar worthy, all that. But I also think that it's so influenced by Heat, so
Mm.
the filmmaker aspect of it is also what is very, like, to me, a big part of why it's successful.
Yeah.
It's very unique
It's
in
so
that way.
tense, and all the
Hmm.
cross cutting between things happening at the same time, and
Yeah.
yeah. So I'm really going off piece because I'm going.
It's all
It's a
right.
different
I
film.
mean, how to get this episode to be longer than an hour is talk about Batman for me. So, is there anything else about the film? We've talked about the costumes and the Batmobile. Is there anything else that we haven't covered yet?
I was thinking about scenes.
Okay. Okay.
Um, I think the action scenes are excellent, but they are
Hmm.
over far too soon. Uh,
Yes, I feel like the early Batman films had this problem of
yeah,
they didn't really know, they didn't really hire directors that knew how to do action scenes, and Especially now, our audiences crave
Yeah.
good action. You know, John Wick has like spoiled us, right?
Oh
So like
God, yeah.
we want the real deal, which I do think the Batman actually has.
Oh yeah. I want to
But
see hand to hand like Shang-Chi
yeah,
or the Matrix. You know, I want
right,
to see
right.
clear hand to hand with a steady camera.
Yes, not
Um,
these fast cut. Yeah.
yeah.
But it has good moments, like you said. It
Oh
still
yeah.
has good
I love
moments.
when he comes through the skylight.
Hmm.
I love when he bursts out of the fire. There's the big swell of music as he like explodes out of that wall of fire, which apparently was really dangerous to film in real life.
Oh wow, I bet.
Um, and I love the speech he gives
Hmm.
to Robin. It's quite a short one about revenge. And again, this feels like a lesson for real life. This um, when he says to him, your pain won't die with Harvey, and you'll go out into the night and you'll look for another face and another face and another face. And it's just
Yeah,
so true. You see
he's
people all the
talking about
time.
himself too.
Yeah, he is.
That's what
Yeah,
he did, you know.
that's
Yeah.
exactly what he did. Yeah, after Joker. Yeah,
Hmm.
and you see people all the time, and they're looking at the world and they're saying this is wrong and this is wrong and this is wrong and this is wrong and that person over there is doing something they shouldn't be, and that person over there I've got an agenda against or a vendetta against, and it on a smaller scale it consumes people that
Sure.
need to remedy everything around them. I
Hmm.
relate to it. Um, and then the speech, that my favourite speech from the film. And again, look, Batman doesn't get to do many speeches, but this is more like narration, which he does a lot in the comics. You know, the comics
Hmm.
are
Yeah, the detective noir
yeah,
esque narration. Yeah.
no matter who the writer is, you always hear what Batman is thinking in the comics,
Yeah.
and um, that feels the same for his speech where he finally tells Chase about his origins and the sort of tragic and triumphant moment, the where he sees the bat, the sort of the pivotal man who falls moment, um, where uh, he's his life changes forever in that moment, and you feel it in Val's delivery. That's one of my favorite bits of the film because it's
Mm.
bittersweet, and it sort of makes it almost makes my hair stand on end. It's like because it's such an important moment for Batman. Um,
Yeah.
when they cover it in The Dark Knight Returns, there's a really good. They did a animated movie adaptation of The Dark Knight Returns, and the
Hmm.
animated version they did of Year One as well. And whenever I read it, whenever I see it, that moment where his life goes from one thing to another thing, it's just so powerful. Um, I love the way Val Kilmer does it in this.
Hmm.
Apparently, it was going to be even longer. That's one of the things they changed in the Schumacher cut.
Mm.
Apparently, you get more of that, and you get that. There's that giant bat figure that's meant to be like a sort of scary shadow personality,
Yeah.
from a bit like Darwin Cook's ego. There's like a big. He has to. I think in the Schumacher cut he gets amnesia,
Oh wow.
and then he has to rediscover his identity as Batman, which again they've also done in the comics. That was in the Scott Snyder run as well. The more recently than Batman Forever. Yeah, which sounds like quite a cool thing if they ever release that.
Yeah, I completely agree. Do we have anything else, or are we kind of maybe we start to wrap up a bit and I ask you the last couple of questions, if that's okay.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay. So we've talked about it, but if you had to summarize, what what about this particular Batman film or movie in general keeps you coming back to it?
Um, I would say it's partially nostalgia, if I'm honest. um, it's that it's a fast, fun Batman. It's a part way between the camp and the gritty. There's still a bit of Burtonishness about it. Um, it's nearly as good as a '90s movie could look. Um, I don't know. It's a fun summer blockbuster, and
Yeah.
it sort of takes me back to 1995. Um, it's not a complicated film. It's just a it's just a fun film.
Yeah, 100%. I love that.
What do you think?
Well, I'll admit that it's not my favorite Batman film,
No, yeah, me neither.
but out of this one and Batman and Robin, I honestly return to this one more. I do think
Yeah,
it's the better out of the two films.
yeah,
And I love Jim Carrey
yeah.
so much. Still do.
when he
And
when he's at the soiree and he's wearing the exact same tuxedo and the exact same hair
yes,
as Val
yes.
Kilmer, and every time Val Kilmer puts his glasses on, he puts the same
Great,
glasses on.
great stuff. Yeah. I think this movie is nostalgic. I think you touched on that, and I do think that's an important aspect of it.
Definitely, yeah.
If you haven't seen all the Batman movies, it's a really good one. It's a good one.
Yeah.
Well,
There's so
how
many.
would you?
Yeah,
Oh, go ahead.
we're so lucky that there are
Well, we're
just so many good
spoiled.
ones.
There's so
Yeah,
many of them. Yeah, it's like almost like, well, if you don't like it, there's a bunch of other ones you can like.
this
It's
is the
sort of
thing.
like the
I want to
same thing
see
with anything else.
my appetite is still there. I want to
Same,
see
same.
I want to see a horror adaptation of A Serious House on Serious Earth.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
want to see Batman the musical. They talked about it it's
yeah.
probably about
I would watch
20 years ago
that.
now.
I would
Yeah,
watch that. How do you pitch this movie to someone that hasn't seen it before? Maybe they're a newer fan, and you're trying to get them into it. Like, what about this movie do you think would appeal to them?
I would say this is a good, fun, rollicking adventure. Good versus evil. Um, it's it's kind of got a bit of everything. It's action packed. It's it's got drama. It's got comedy. We've never had um, we've never for all of the comedic aspects of both the Schumacher films and indeed the '66 movie. They're not comedies. There's a lot to unpack about them, and just an amazing cast, especially Val Kilmer and Jim Carrey.
Yeah, well said. I think that's good. Well, Dan, this was a pleasure. Thank you so much for
Right.
coming on. Thank you for
You're
picking
welcome.
this movie. Is there anything that you need to plug on the way out?
Oh gosh. Well, I'm a fan artist. I've drawn a lot of Batman in my life,
Great.
unsurprisingly.
Yeah, I'm
um,
shocked.
you can find me, Dan Cheeseman Art, all run together on Instagram and Blue Sky. I have a blog called Cheeseman Returns, also inspired by Batman. And I have put together some sort of nascent pseudo podcast discussions on a few movies on my YouTube channel, which is just called Daniel Cheeseman.
Great. Well, thank you again, Daniel. I hope to have you back soon.
Thank you for having me.